Hi, everybody, and welcome to our online professional development on how to cultivate in-depth discussions in your classroom. In this PD, we are going to be talking about how you can use Socratic Seminars and Kialo, which is a third-party company, to reach this main goal of cultivating more in-depth discussions into your classroom. Before we go into the content of this PD, I did just want to provide a little bit of information about myself. So my name is Jakob Castaneda, and I am a recent graduate from the University of California, Irvine. I did graduate with my Bachelor's of Science in Biological Sciences, and I also was a part of a wonderful program at UCI called CalTeach, which did provide me with 4 years of teacher preparation throughout the time I was completing my undergrad at UCI. If you do have any questions about this online presentation, or if you would like to collaborate in any sort of way in the future, I do have my email provided here for you. It is jakobrc@uci.edu. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into our PD for today. For those who may be unfamiliar with Socratic seminars, essentially, they are a discussion about a certain question or about a certain topic. They can be arranged as a group discussion about a topic or question as a whole, or they can be arranged where the class can form new groups that either agree, disagree, or are neutral on a topic. From there, the sides are allowed to express their own opinions and allow for an open discussion within your classroom. I think it's also important to note that in these Socratic seminars, there may not always be a correct answer, and the main goal is to allow each student to explore the viewpoints of others and gain more insight on the topic as a whole. When you have decided to implement and plan your Socratic seminar for your classroom, here's a list of a few questions that you should ask yourself prior. When is the best time to use this Socratic seminar? Is this something you want at the beginning of a unit, in the middle of a unit, or at the end of the unit? Will your Socratic seminar be content related, or will it be related to something else, not necessarily content related, such as SEL, social emotional learning, or will it be used as maybe an icebreaker in your classroom? Do you want your Socratic seminar to take up the whole class period? This question is really important when you are planning your Socratic seminar, because if you want it to take up the whole class period, you're going to need a lot more questions or a lot more different topics prepared than if you were only planning on the Socratic seminar taking up a smaller portion of the class period. Will you require every student to talk during the Socratic seminar? And what will happen to students who may be too shy to speak in front of the class? How can you provide them with the same opportunity to contribute to that conversation as a whole? And the main important question is, what do you want students to take away from this seminar? What do you want them to gain insight or knowledge on? And a last final note, when it comes to setting up your Socratic seminar, it's important to note that you can either set these up as a Socratic seminar or a Socratic circle, both of which I will be talking about in the next couple of slides. It's also very important that you come up with ground rules as a group or as a classroom. Next, as a facilitator, your main job is to introduce the topic or the question, and from there, you are responsible for allowing the group of students to do most of the talking. The instructor should not be the center of attention and should really only act as a facilitator by asking questions or by calling on students to contribute to the conversation. As a facilitator, it's also very important to understand when the conversation seems to be running dry. That way, you can introduce the next question. As mentioned on the previous slide, there are two different types of discussive modes, with Socratic seminars being a normal classic Socratic seminar and also a Socratic circle, which will be talked about on the next slide. The model you see on the screen currently is going to be the setup for a Socratic seminar. So with a Socratic seminar, it is most easily done if the classroom is set up into a U shape because it allows for three different groups in the classroom. A group on the left, a group on the right, and a group in the back, bridging those two groups together. This style of Socratic seminar is mostly going to be used for debates between the opposing sides and convincing those with opposing opinions why your opinion or why your ideas are more ideal and are more efficient. However, with Socratic circles, they are a little bit different. Socratic circles, the classroom is going to be set up in a circle format. This allows for a very easy flow of conversation. You can start with one student and choose to go either clockwise or counterclockwise depending on your preferences. And that way you always know who is responsible for speaking next. Socratic circles are mostly going to be used for hearing from every individual student and understanding their own stance on a given topic or a given question. On the screen, I currently have a list of basic rules that I have used as a basis for Socratic seminars I have hosted in the past. For sake of time, I'm not going to read through each of these individually, so if you would like to take a look, please go ahead and just pause the video. What I will say about when it comes to creating rules for your Socratic seminar, it's definitely important that you do get your own students' input when it comes to creating these rules, whether they would like to add a rule or maybe modify a rule, change a rule. I definitely think giving them that voice in your classroom to state their own opinions when it comes to creating the rules for Socratic seminar definitely makes them feel like they have a place in your classroom, and it makes them feel more inclined to speak in the Socratic seminar. As I've kind of hinted throughout this PD, there are many different uses of Socratic seminars in your classroom. One of the first and the most easiest ways to introduce a Socratic seminar is through or for the topic of morality. So if there's some sort of conflict that arises, whether it be in the classroom or within the community, definitely creating a structured place for students to voice their opinions on different moral topics is something that we are seeing with the integration of social emotional learning into the everyday classroom. Another example is to promote general thinking. So Socratic seminars are able to be used in order to exchange ideas and share opinions on whatever the topic or the question may be. And also in the subject of your classroom, Socratic seminars are a very fun way for students to explore new information without being told by the teacher what they need to remember. Instead, it is based off of more student-based inquiry and through the discussions of students in your classroom. To better understand how Socratic seminars can be used in a science-specific, but also this can really be applied to any subject area, we're going to take a look at how they can be used in specific examples. One of my personal favorite ways to use Socratic seminars is through the use of icebreakers. So based off of asking students different icebreaker questions, it does allow the teacher and the student to get to know more about each other. I also think that when you are introducing the idea of Socratic seminars, starting off with an icebreaker really allows you to make sure that students are understanding the concept of the Socratic seminars and how exactly to participate. I've also noticed that by starting off with a fun question or two, it really gets students interested in discussing what you are going to be discussing once you get into that more specific content area. Another really good example of Socratic seminars is with launching a new topic or a new unit. By using Socratic seminars, you can really, assess student learning based off of previous subjects or based off of previous grade levels. And from there, you can also use it to guide future lessons based off of what they already know, what they have a somewhat of an idea with, and what they still need to learn or to better comprehend. Another really good example is discussing hypotheses. So I personally have used this in my class before, and before commenting or before completing a lab or an activity, students will create their own hypotheses with their groups. And from there, you can actually choose a few different hypotheses randomly, and you can partake in a Socratic seminar with the certain hypothesis or with the different hypotheses being the main topic or the main question that you are going to be looking at. And from there, you can have the students determine whether they think the hypothesis is plausible or whether it is not plausible. I personally would recommend, if you are going to be using this to discuss hypotheses, that you do this anonymously. That way, if a student notices that their hypothesis was maybe not agreed upon with a majority of the class, the student doesn't necessarily feel singled out. And lastly, another great example of how to use these Socratic seminars is also when you are debriefing some sort of activity, some sort of lab. You can revisit the hypotheses and also ask students supplemental questions to ensure that they are understanding the connection between the activity and the scientific concepts. Okay, and to very quickly recap the Socratic seminar that we participated in our Zoom call, the statement question was that water is wet. From there, we did have everybody in the Zoom call state whether they agreed that water is wet, they disagreed that water is not wet, or maybe they were neutral or kind of unsure about where they stood on that statement. Like I did mention previously, I think it's always a great resource to start with a fun question just to make sure that students are actively interested in the process of discussion and explaining their details or their reasoning to other students in the class. The Socratic Circle question we looked at was, what are you most looking forward to the next school year? This is going to be the only question we were able to get through just because time's sake. And then we actually did take a look at another resource called Kialo. Kialo is going to be an online tool created for hosting discussions. From there, you are able to create a thesis or a statement, kind of similar to a Socratic seminar, and each student can either respond to that as a pro, meaning that they agree with the statement, with a con, that they disagree with the statement. And then from there, it is a great tool for actually hosting these discussions and debates for remote learning. So really quickly, just to give you a very quick idea of what Kialo does look like, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my screen. From here, when you load your Kialo page, you have the opportunity to create a discussion. When it says create a discussion, basically you'll just follow this panel here. I personally think you should always have it on private just to make sure that everybody you want in that I guess discussion is there, nobody else. And from there, you have the option of doing a single thesis or multiple theses. I personally think that single thesis is always going to be what I would use, but of course, please take a look at it on your own and play around with the different options. From there, you can provide your statement in the form of a discussion title. So based off the last slide, let's just go ahead and put that the Earth is round. So just write Earth is round, whatever it is that you would like. From there, you can add additional background information if you would like to do so. Next slide, you can also add an image. I personally don't think this is necessary, but if you would like to, it definitely does make for more, I guess, interactive learning. And then once you actually complete your discussion, it'll take you to a whole new page where your discussion is now viewable by everybody who does have the link, which I will share in just 1 second. And like I did mention, each student can either add a pro, the Earth is round because ... and then they can actually add it to that discussion. So you'd click save. And let's say a student said, I don't believe the Earth is round for ... And then they save, and now you can actually see a visual representation of all of the people who have contributed to your discussion. And you can kind of get a really easy, just by looking at it, how many people agree or disagree with that topic. When it comes to sharing this with your students, it's very simple. On this actual homepage, you will click Share, you will click Invite, and then you will go to Participant Invite Link, click Enable one more time, and now it will provide you with the link for people to participate in your Kialo discussion. And it is just that simple. Okay, and to take a look at how you can incorporate Kialo into the classroom, you can provide students with a thesis statement the night before an assignment or a lab activity, and you can actually have them state their opinion on the topic before they even come to class. Another good tool is that you can have them responsible for responding to one other student or however many students you would like, but for having them responsible for responding to other students' posts just to further that discussion. When you are starting to use Kialo, I think it's very important that you do give students feedback for their discussion post, and that's really to ensure that they are constantly improving with their academic writing and making sure that they are up to the standards set forth by you and by the school. Okay, and that does bring us to the end of our professional development for today on cultivating in-depth discussions in your classroom through the use of Socratic Seminars and Kialo. Once again, here is my information. If you do have any questions or for collaboration inquiries, please go ahead and feel free to reach out to me. My email one more time is jakobrc@uci.edu. Thank you.